Thankfully, kicking us off with the news, we've got good news. Very, very good news, as Shang-Chi is on its way to more or less saving the box office for the time being, as Shang-Chi is way, way over delivering at the box office, as I believe the opening weekend was close to like 83 million, and then the 4-day weekend with Monday's total pushed it over 90 million domestically, which, at least for me, is just really, really gratifying, just because, as we talked about on the podcast not too long ago, Bob Chapek just seemed to not give two flying craps about this movie. He just went on record like, we're going to release this theatrically because we see this as a really interesting experiment, to which all the actors and people involved, but especially Shang-Chi himself, Simu Liu, was just like, we are not an experiment. We are the first Asian-led superhero movie. We are not an experiment. We are a major step forward, because Chapek's just an idiot. I think a lot of people underestimated the box office potential for this movie. Both you and I were like, this could very well be a lot like a Black Panther, of representing a culture and a demographic that has not been as well represented on the big screen as it potentially could be. So I think this is a great sign, and because Sony is the most reactionary company in the world, even more so than Warner Bros., I think due to the success of Shang-Chi, Venom Let There Be Carnage has been moved up 2 weeks to October 1st now instead of October 15th, so it's not coming off the same day as Halloween Kills anymore. That's right, you move aside for the great lord that is Michael Myers, their Venom. But I think this is a really, really positive sign. I know there's so many people going into this going, this will be Disney's first flop. Even I got the sense within Marvel that this was a movie that they were happy with. But I don't know about you, Josh, but it just feels like lately all the press and all the attention we've heard is very Eternals focused. Of Kevin Feige, whenever he's asked, is just like, we're really excited about the Eternals. Chloe Zhao knocked it out of the park with the Eternals. We're like, that's cool, but I want to see this guy split kick dudes on a bus, and that split kicking dude ended up delivering one of the best origin movies in the entire MCU. But do you see this as a positive trend for movies? Are you surprised about the box office numbers? What do you think of Shang-Chi just crushing it at the opening weekend, Josh?
It's extremely gratifying, because I think this movie needed to do really well. I mean, yes, I feel bad, because this movie was totally for me, and I am super down for this kind of movie, but I understand a little bit where Chapek would be coming from as far as a quote-unquote experiment, because this leans, a little bit of spoilers, leans really heavy into Chinese mythology and stuff like that, and I don't know why, like, I can see people. I actually have friends who were like, yeah, I wasn't really interested in it. And I was like, no, like, it's really, really good. Like, go see it. And now, because of word of mouth, they're going to go see it. So I can kind of see where somebody like Chapek would be like, well, this movie is kind of different. And in my opinion, all the best ways, it's different. It takes its source material very seriously, and I appreciate the crap out of that, because it'd been very easy to just turn this into a movie full of just Asian stereotypes. That being said, it's crazy to me that we're in a place in the world where an $80 million opening is considered a big deal.
I mean, like, even without the pandemic, I think that would be a big deal. Yeah. Even without the pandemic. Because the weird thing is, this is a Labor Day weekend record, which is just bizarre to me, that the previous record holder was Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007, which made $35 million. I'm going, first of all, why the heck do you release a Halloween movie over Labor Day weekend? And two, that's it? That's the record? People have off 35? Labor Day. Why don't we put like the last big gasp of a summer blockbuster there? It's weird to me that was the previous record holder and such a low number, but this like shattered that record by almost threefold. I think the big takeaway for this, and my big question is, I don't want to keep like moving the goalpost, but I think it's important to think about yes, this opening weekend was great. What's the second weekend going to look like? And I think this time around, as opposed to some other movies, I think the second weekend will be strong due to word of mouth. Black Widow had a really strong opening weekend, but then just crapped the bed second weekend because of premiere access, and it was pirated like crazy. This, because it's only theatrical, there's going to be, I'm not saying there's going to be no pirating, that will always be a thing, but there'll be significantly less pirating. Word of mouth will get people to go back to it. Also, more importantly, there's like no direct competition for this movie for the rest of the month. The next movie that might challenge it is Venom, and then James Bond's No Time to Die. But those aren't until October. So this movie will probably go unchallenged for the rest of the month. That's nothing but fantastic news. This movie should easily go to that $500-600 million mark. And right now, in the pandemic era, Fast 9? Fast 9 is the top box office movie. I don't think that's staying much longer.
Nah.
Because it's doing really, really well domestically. I haven't seen internationally, but I'd imagine internationally it's going to do pretty well too. It's got the big names overseas like Tony Leung and Michelle Yeoh, who are phenomenal in the movie. This movie doesn't feel like it's catered to a foreign audience, but it's made with a foreign audience in mind. Like, it's not like Transformer sequels where they're blatantly just going, let's go over to China and Japan just so we can say it's got international appeal. This has purpose and intentionality behind what it's doing. So I think this time around, we've had several what I'll call false starts in terms of hope for the box office. Like Godzilla vs. Kong did very well opening weekend. Black Widow did pretty decent opening weekend, but all those movies had home distribution. Fast and Furious, I don't think had the strongest of weekends, but it's just been steady because it hadn't really had that much competition. I see the exact same thing happen here to Shang-Chi, and for most studios, I think the success of Shang-Chi and it being a theatrical only release will signify the end of delays. However, not for every studio, but we'll get into that a little later. Josh, how much of an eye are you keeping on the second weekend? Do you think it's important? Not? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's pretty important. I think you and I always talk about how the success of a movie isn't necessarily on the opening weekend; it's the legs that it has afterwards.
Greatest Showman.
To me, that's to me how you can tell if a movie's doing well. I hope it does really well in the second weekend. I hope that more people go see this film, not just because I loved it, but I think we keep saying it's the start of the new phase, like after every project that comes out, but like this is like the start. This is the film start of the new phase. Yeah. And boy, howdy, am I ready.
Yeah, I think this should give studios and theaters a lot of confidence going forward. You made a really good movie. You didn't put it online. You're just getting phenomenal word of mouth. It's going to go unchallenged for a while. This should be a recipe for box office success. And I'm going to go on record now. We can obviously fact check this next week, but I think this weekend it will have less than a 50% drop at the box office. Which, if for movies, that's a really good thing. You want to aim for that 50. I think it'll fall under that 50%. So I think this weekend it'll make $40 to $45 million this weekend, just because I don't think it's really going to have any major competition. I think it's going to have really, really strong legs going forward, and I think this was the start of Phase 4 that Marvel really actually needed, because this movie, we'll get more into it in the discussion. Shang-Chi truly does feel like the start of a new era. It feels not like Iron Man in terms of setting up new things, but kind of like Iron Man, so to speak.